it's middle grade March. Cue the applause. Wait, hold on. Happy middle grade March. If you don't know what that is, it is a month-long readathon that celebrates all things middle grade. And if you don't know what that is, middle grade is the name of the age group of books that are written for 8 to 12-year-olds, but can be enjoyed by any age reader. The intention of middle grade March is to encourage readers of all ages to enjoy middle grade books. As a middle grade writer, middle grade March is one of my favorite times of the year. It allows middle grade to step into the spotlight and get the attention it deserves, but does not always receive. I'm really excited to share with you my middle grade TBR for this month. I figured I would set some lofty goals and try to read a ton of middle grade books, and I wanted to share them with you in case you were interested in partaking in middle grade March and you weren't sure where to start. So let's dive in. The first book that I am starting with for this month is B. Mullins Takes a Shot by Emily Deaver. It is a queer middle grade contemporary about first crushes and friendships and a girl who is forced to join the hockey team. I just started it. I've been listening to the audiobook, which is fantastic. If you're an audiobook listener, I highly recommend. And if you really like sports, this might be a good pick for you. I'm also hoping to read Skeleton Flute by Damara Allen. I have wanted to read this book forever. As soon as I heard about it, I put it on my TBR. I bought it the day it came out. I was very excited about it, and then I just haven't read it yet. So I have it, I own it, I am so ready to read it. It's a middle grade horror about a boy whose wish goes horribly wrong. It's described as The Legend of Pied Piper meets Sal and Gabby Break the Universe meets Coraline. So kind of a great mix of things. I'm really excited to finally dig into this. My next pick is a little bit of a cheat. It is Crushing It by Erin Becker. I went to the book launch. I bought the book at the book launch. Erin signed it. I read the book about 60% of the way through, and then my whole family got sick and I put it down and I got distracted by other books and I didn't return to it. So it was really, really well written. I really enjoyed what I had read so far. Not a comment on the book at all, mostly comment about me being distracted by other things. So I'm incredibly excited to return to it, but you can see why I'm calling it a cheat, but it still counts. It still counts because it is still March and it is still middle grade, so we're taking it. Pushing It is a soccer-focused contemporary middle grade about first crushes, friendships, and learning how to be brave. And it's a sapphic first crush, so extra love for that. A little bit of a cheat, but very excited to read it. The next pick is called Werewolf Hamlet by Carrie Madden Lunsford. It's the name of this that got me. I saw it on Instagram. I can't remember who posted about it, but it was another middle grade writer friend, and I was just like, I'm in 100%. And the more I learned about it, the more excited I got to read it. So it's about a 10-year-old theater kid who basically rewrites Hamlet with werewolves. As a former theater kid, this spoke to me. It is a contemporary middle grade from my understanding. It is not paranormal. I don't believe the werewolves are real, but that's okay. This just sounds so charming and delightful, and I think I'm really gonna love it. My next pick is called The Amazing Edie Eckhart by Rosie Jones. This is a contemporary middle grade about a girl with cerebral palsy, written by an author with cerebral palsy. She's actually a pretty famous comedian. I put this on my list because March is Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, and as a parent of a child who has cerebral palsy, I really want to be prioritizing books written by authors with cerebral palsy. I was very excited to find this story written by Rosie Jones. It sounds absolutely charming. I think I'm gonna love it. And it's a diary format, is what the Goodreads said. So I am such a sucker for a diary format. I think it comes from Dear America books. If you guys ever read Dear America when you were kids, I loved those. I actually probably should have put one of those on this list, but I feel like prioritizing new middle grade is really what middle grade March is about for me anyway. So this was a really long-winded way of saying I'm excited to read this book. The next pick is called What Fell from the Sky by Adriana Cuevas. It is a historical fiction sci-fi matchup set in the 1950s. I love the concept. I love it even more because apparently it's based on true events. It just sounds really unique and interesting. It combines two genres I enjoy. I'm a big sci-fi reader now, and when I was a kid, I devoured historical fiction. It's funny, as a middle grade writer, I do not write historical fiction. It's incredibly intimidating to me, and I can't wait to dive into this book and see how this genre matchup works. Next book is a sequel. It is called The Last Rewitch and the Nine-Tailed Fox by Jenna Lee Yoon. It's a sequel to The Last Rewitch, which came out last year. This book returns to Camp Foster, except it's in the winter, which I think is a really clever twist on the idea of camp. And the book is filled with mystery and magic and danger and first crushes, and I love Jenna's writing. I'm a little bit biased because she is a mentor and a friend, but I just think she's an incredible writer. If you haven't read the first one, maybe consider putting The Rewitch on your middle grade March TBR. The next book is called Ellie Engel Saves Herself by Leah Johnson. This is a contemporary fantasy middle grade about a girl who wakes up after a natural disaster with the ability to bring things back to life with her touch, and then she goes viral. It's kind of funny, when I went to Indianapolis for my writing retreat last summer, me and my writing buddy were walking to coffee and we passed this bookstore and we were like, oh, you know, this is lovely, perfect for our writing retreat. And we walked in. The bookstore was called Loudmouth Books. There was this display of Leah Johnson's books, and my friend Megan was so excited and she was like, oh my gosh, I love Leah Johnson. Is she local to Indianapolis? And the bookseller gave us kind of a funny look and was like, yeah, she's really local, and then pointed behind the counter and there was Leah Johnson because it was her bookstore. My friend writes YA, so they talked for a long time about YA writing because Leah Johnson writes a lot of YA as well. So she was very gracious with her time and quite kind to us. And I bought her middle grade book and I'm so excited to read it. I've had it since the summer. You'll see a theme with this. A lot of the books on this list, like, I have bought and just haven't gotten to yet. My TBR is kind of a monstrosity. This is the month that I am prioritizing and going to finally read these books that I have been so excited to read. The next book is called Accidental Demons by Claire Edge. I love the concept of this. It is so incredibly clever. It is about a young witch who has diabetes, and every time she pricks her finger for a blood sugar test, she's accidentally conjuring demons because the magic system, I believe, is blood-based in the book. As a writer, I am so impressed and astonished by the creativity of fellow writers. I just adored this. So I'm really, really excited to read this, and I love the name. I have a book that is partially written, 40% written, with the same name, so obviously I'm gonna have to retitle it. And it's a very different book. It's an incredibly different book. But anyway, I think it just is a sign that I'm really gonna enjoy this book. Next book is called Other Words for Home by Jasmine Ward, and this is also kind of a cheat. I read half of this. I got it from the library, and I read half of it, and then I picked up another book and didn't return to this and had to return it back to the library. So I'm gonna get it back from the library and finish the other half because it was beautiful. It is a middle grade novel in verse about a young girl who has to leave Syria and come to the United States. I hadn't really read many middle grade novels in verse until last March when I picked one up for middle grade March, Starfish, which was amazing. And now I feel like I'm reading more and more novels in verse and just appreciating them so much. Poetry to me is one of the most challenging forms of writing. I have such respect for people who can write poetry, write it well, and form an entire novel out of it. It is just incredibly impressive, and at some point I hope to be at that skill level where I'm able to do something similar, but let's not hold our breath. Excited to finish the half that I hadn't read, and even though it's a little bit of a cheat, we're counting it because it's middle grade March and it's middle grade, so we love to see it. The next book is called What Lives in the Woods by Lindsay Curry. It's a middle grade horror about a creepy mansion and creatures in the woods. I've heard really good things about this book, and as a middle grade writer, I love reading middle grade horror, so I'm extra excited to jump into this. The next book is As You Wish by Nishay Jones. It is a middle grade rom-com about a girl who learns the hard way, be careful what you wish for, and it features a West African trickster god. I really loved her debut book. I believe it came out in 2024, it might have been 2023, but it was called Courtesy of Cupid. It really gave off Sweet Valley High vibes. If you ever read that as a kid, that was one of my favorite series as a kid, but it had a supernatural element. So I cannot wait for this. She's an incredibly talented writer, and I think it's going to be really good. Okay, and that brings us to our last book, which I know this has been an incredibly long list, and we'll talk about that in a second, but my last book is Anne of Green Gables. And I know that I said I was prioritizing modern authors rather than nostalgic work, but I came across this guy called The Cultured Bumpkin, I believe, on TikTok, and he's a voice actor, and he reads the classics in Southern accents, and I just love the concept of that. I listened to a few things, and I thought this was perfect for middle grade March, because I'm also doing this thing right now where I'm trying to romanticize spring, and Anne of Green Gables is a book that really makes me think of spring and love spring, so I wanted to incorporate that as well. So I think this will be nice. This is probably my lowest priority book because I have already read it. It's a classic. We'll see if I actually get to read it, but I just liked the idea of listening to a classic with a Southern accent. Check him out if you are interested in that. I don't really know much about him. I've just stumbled across his work and I have enjoyed it. Okay, and that's the list. That is my TBR for middle grade March for 2025. I believe it's 13 books, which is a lot for me. I typically average 4 to 5 books a month, but with middle grade March, I really wanted to push through and read as many as I could. Some of them I have read most of the book already, so I feel like it's more doable that way. At the end of the day, this is just my goal. It is not something that I am going to sweat about whether or not I make it. Middle grade March is supposed to be fun, so if this gets too stressful, I probably will slow down. I want to read as many of these as I can anyway, and if I don't finish them in March, I'll just read them in April. So let's focus on making things sustainable and having fun with it. Hope this inspires you to read at least one middle grade book, and I would love to hear what that book is going to be if you could drop a comment below. If you are a middle grade writer, please introduce yourself in the comments. I know I have like a lot of silent watchers and I appreciate all you guys, but the middle grade writing community is very small, so I want to make sure that I am lifting up other middle grade voices. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye!